War has come to Middle-earth, declares Durin III in the opening line of the final trailer for the Rings of Power Season 2. The brand new trailer, which has a heavy focus on action, gives a good amount of new shots, plus some clues big and small as to the story points of this new season. Now before we get rolling, be sure you hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss my weekly analysis of Rings of Power, but also coverage of other adaptations, games, and of course, my weekly Tolkien lore videos. Now, the second shot we see in the trailer is a group of orcs marching down from some mountains. Now, presumably the city we see in the background here is Eregion, which seems to already be under attack, judging by the smoke in the background. Now, I've been trying to place exactly where these orcs might be marching from. If we look at the map made before Season 1, my best guess is that the city and these orcs are meant to be in some of the foothills of the Misty Mountains, and not in the mountains themselves, which would make more sense geographically. The next shot is very similar to ones we've seen before, where orcs are making their way across the river and catapults are placed along the shoreline. I'm very curious to see what role the river will play in this huge upcoming battle. I remember seeing the wide shots of Eregion in Season 1, thinking it looked pretty darn defensible with a river giving it a pretty impressive moat around 2/3 of the city. It could be interesting if part of the orc strategy is to dam the river to make it easier for attacking. Next we get a couple previously seen shots of a catapult firing and the fireball hurtling through the sky at some elves. This is followed by a shot of one such fireball impacting what appears to be the outer wall of Eregion as elves and orcs fight in the foreground. This is followed by a shot of Elrond stumbling through battle. Now, in previous trailers, we've seen his army of horsemen arrive during the daytime, so presumably he's been in the thick of it for quite some time at this point. It's a pretty brief shot, but this seems like the kind of thing that precedes a hero and a villain heading toward one another for a face-off. So maybe this is him about to throw down with Adar, or maybe he'll take a crack at that huge troll Damrod, who I honestly still just want to call Bob. Next, we get a small part of the Elfvengers Assemble shot, where they're facing down the Barrow-wights, and we see Galadriel as she says, "This is the work of Sauron." Now real quick, I forgot to mention last time around, but I like that her hair is bound up in this style for at least part of the time. It could well be a nod to Tolkien's letter 348, where he says Galadriel was then of Amazon disposition and bound up her hair as a crown when taking part in athletic feats. I guess you could consider fighting Barrow-wights an athletic feat. Maybe it can replace breakdancing at the next Olympics. Anyway, as Galadriel mentions Sauron, we get some super quick images of said Dark Lord. First, a previously seen shot of him in Eregion, notably still in Halbrand form. Next, a low-angle shot of him with his Annatar locks. Then we get a couple shots of him in flames. This is also intercut with super tight shots of him, presumably in Halbrand form, waking up. My best guess for the fire shots is he's gonna show up to Celebrimbor in his Halbrand form, and he'll walk into the flames and emerge like a butterfly from a cocoon, except instead of wings, he gets his flowing blonde hair. Now obviously, I was pretty critical of how the show handled the rings in Season 1, and I still think already having the 3 made was a pretty substantial mistake. That being said, I am looking forward to getting Annatar on the screen. It's what was sorely missing from Season 1, and let's hope it's done well in Season 2. As I said before, I'm curious if we'll get an indication of why Sauron fled all the way to Mordor at the end of Season 1, just to come back to Eregion at the beginning of Season 2. Does he go back to Mordor to fire up the orcs for this pending attack? That's my personal best guess right now. As for his eyes opening, I think this could be him gaining consciousness in a new bodily form in flashback. We've already got glimpses and hints that Adar kills his bodily form in a flashback, so perhaps this is him after he's generated a new body, that being Halbrand from Season 1. Now the next shot is a big one, because this is rock-solid confirmation that we will see Annatar in person in Khazad-dûm. It's blurry, but the throne in the background as he walks out menacingly is definitely the very same we see behind Durin in the opening shot of this trailer. Next we see an elf soldier attacking Annatar, who seems to be in the same position where we've seen him cornered by a group of soldiers. This might be immediately after that moment, as we do have a character on the ground in the background. I went back and checked, and there's no body laying there in those previous shots. At first, this looks like a pretty straightforward instance of Annatar dodging an attack, stealing the weapon, and killing the soldier, which is what happens. However, the short pause of him looking at the soldier makes me think this could be another instance of him controlling others by freezing this guy in his tracks. I may be totally off on this, but the previous teaser sure looked like Sauron made the elves surrounding him turn on one another. So perhaps he's showing some similar power over this last soldier here. Another thing to notice, aside from the room looking like a war zone itself, is Celebrimbor standing in the background cradling his bloody stump of a hand that he probably just burned on his forgeman grill. We then cut to a horseman riding through what is presumably the deserts of Rhûn, possibly the same person we saw in the sunset shot in the previous trailer. The next shot is right back to Elvendom with Gil-galad and Elrond. I believe this is a scene where they're trying to decide how to help out Eregion, which is in danger or possibly already under attack. Gil-galad says our armies cannot defeat him, and I've got two theories when it comes to this specific line. One option is he's making a general commentary on how powerful Sauron is, like he's beyond a mere mortal foe and he can't truly be defeated now that he has a hold on Celebrimbor or Eregion or something. Or possibly more likely, he's saying whatever force of orcs attacking Eregion is too great for the size of army they have and they can't win. Now, potential spoilers here, so if you don't want to hear my theories on how Season 2 will end, skip to the timecode here. But in the books, after the Battle of Eregion, Sauron basically spends the next 3 years wreaking havoc on Eriador until the Numenorians come to aid the elves and ultimately defeat Sauron. Now, this is just me guessing, but my two best theories as to how this season will ultimately end is, number one, that we'll see a condensed version of that play out, with Eregion being destroyed, but Pharazôn leading the Numenorians to aid the elves. And after defeating Sauron, they'll condense this with the much later event, where Pharazôn takes Sauron captive to Numenor. Or, theory 2, the season will end on a more dour note, with the sack of Eregion, and Elrond barely escaping to flee north, but with the small glimmer of hope in him finding the hidden valley of Rivendell, and maybe the Numenorians sailing towards Middle-earth, which would mean Season 3 would start off with a big conflict as the previous points play out. Now, obviously those are just my guesses based on the book, so it's hard to say if that might actually come to fruition. Returning to the trailer, we get a shot of a ladder being placed by the orcs on one of Eregion's walls, with the previously seen shot of Annatar with fireballs flying in the background. Next, we get a close-up shot of Gil-galad putting on Vilya, the Ring of Air, adding a ring to his hand like Thanos with Infinity Stones, because seriously, this guy has a lot of rings. This one on his index finger is huge. We then see Galadriel looking up, presumably at the tree of linden that's in the following shot, where it's growing back its leaves. This is a bit cleaner of a shot than we had before, and we can see the leaves burst forth green, then quickly changing color to match the rest of linden. Again, this is probably when the elves decide to use the 3 rings to heal the tree and save them all from dying or something. We then see Gil-galad telling Galadriel, once the deceiver obtains a being's trust, he gains the ability to sculpt their very thoughts. This goes right into a scene with Galadriel and Celebrimbor in the Forest of Linden. We can tell this by the lanterns. It sure seems like the same locale we saw in Season 1. And we get confirmation of what I guessed in the earlier trailer, that it was Celebrimbor these tree roots were moving toward. The lighting goes red as Celebrimbor is pinned to the tree, and it's kinda hard to see, but it almost looks like he may have sticks impale his chest at the last moment here. We then see Galadriel's reaction with the same lighting. Again, I think this scene has to be some kind of vision that Sauron is putting in Galadriel's mind or Celebrimbor's mind, or both their minds. Either way, the red lighting is kind of a giveaway here, I think. Next, we get a couple quick shots of orcs looking all orky, and jump into a couple shots of Numenor. We see some Numenorian guards dragging people out into the street, and it seems that they're rounding people up. The crowd surrounded by the soldiers here seems to predominantly be dressed in either white or very light colors, and many of them seem older. I think there's a good chance this is some kind of starting point for the more direct conflict between the Kingsmen faction, which Pharazôn belongs to, and the Faithful, which Elendil and Miriel are a part of. It seems pretty early for there to be this kind of rounding up of the Faithful, though, I must say. I kind of expected that to come in later in the story where Sauron gets involved. I think perhaps a more realistic option here is maybe Pharazôn is seizing control of Numenor and he's kicking out those loyal to Miriel and replacing them with people loyal to himself. Among those witnessing this is Elendil's daughter Eregion. An original character to the show, we've heard in interviews that there will be a rift between her and her father, and that Elendil will have to choose between his daughter and his faith, which I gotta say could be a dang compelling arc for Elendil if done well. Another menacing Annatar shot right quick, and then we see Elrond looking on as Nenya and Vilya are presented in someone's palm. As we saw, Gil-galad has bling for days, so I'm guessing this is Círdan's hand, offering the other rings after he has taken Narya, the Ring of Fire, which, fun fact for those unfamiliar, will one day, over 1,000 years later, be given to Gandalf when he arrives in Middle-earth. Next we see Durin IV and Disa looking up at something, and this is kind of a unique background here. We see a lot of draping cloth and lanterns, which might make one think of some kind of outdoor market at nighttime, but the lighting to me just feels like it's possibly inside Khazad-dûm. Honestly, I kind of hope this is where they left their kids unsupervised for 10 minutes, and they made this epic blanket fort in their living room or something. Next, we see Durin III sitting on his throne, and he definitely has his Ring of Power on his finger. We've seen enough to know this guy has a bit of madness going on after getting his hand on a ring. He's flanked by a couple of guards here, and I've never noticed this before, but his throne has a couple of boars for armrests, which is kind of cool. Now, over the previous shots and a couple of Sauron and Eregion, we hear a voiceover saying, "You are wise to fear these rings. In Sauron's hands, they could work an evil beyond reckoning." I think the voice here is actually one of the new cast members, and doing a cursory YouTube movie clip search, I think it might be Ben Daniels who plays Círdan, but let me know if you think it's someone different. This leads right into a few shots of the Barrow-wights, and I'll keep saying it, they look creepy as heck, which is super cool. We could obviously pull an actually as to why they shouldn't be around, but I think there will be bigger, more important litmus tests for this season than whether or not Barrow-wights get a one-off appearance. We get another wide shot of Eregion as Elrond says that it must not fall, and well, if you've read the books, you know what Elrond doesn't. Next, we see a quick shot of an orc hammering some kind of spike into the wall of Eregion, followed by a shot of a section of the wall falling, possibly giving us a clue as to how they attempt to breach it. Next, we get a battle shot, and while at a glance I thought it was Elrond, this is definitely Gil-galad wielding his spear Aeglos. We've obviously seen tons of Middle-earth swordplay, but we've never gotten a true spearman. So hopefully we get some really cool and unique combat with the High King here. Now, I should note this does seem like a departure from the books. I don't think it's a make or break one, but in the text, it says Gil-galad sends Elrond with an army to aid Eregion, which would indicate Gil-galad stays put in Lindon. However, with the condensing of events that I think will be taking place here, I would imagine we'll see things that happen in the Battle of the Gwathlo merged with the sack of Eregion. Now, this shot is where I noticed the answer to my earlier question. They are clearly fighting on a dry riverbed here. The ground is wet in patches, and there's definitely a difference in the stone in the background where you can see what was above water level and what was below. My orcs damming the river theory could very well be in play after all. Elrond goes on to say that Eregion falling would be a mortal blow for all Middle-earth. Again, books. We next see Galadriel in a cage being pushed by orcs. Clearly she will be captured at some point, perhaps sometime after the Barrow-wights, leading to her and Elrond being separated. This would explain how she comes face to face with Adar later. We then see rushing water, possibly whatever dam the orcs made breaking. If we can nerd out on geography a little bit, which why wouldn't we? The orcs would have to block the river somewhere between Ost-in-Ethil and the Misty Mountains, as the rivers flow toward the sea. Given Austin Ethil's orientation on the map, that would mean these waves, and the river as a whole, would flow from right to left as we see Eregion in these shots, meaning we would be seeing these waves from the Eregion side of the river. Why does this matter? It probably doesn't, but I enjoy trying to figure out the visual language and orientation of film when it comes to geography and direction. This is actually something the Peter Jackson films do incredibly well, and maybe I'll do a video essay on that topic one day. But anyway, that's my theory on the direction of this river, and now we can wait to see if I am right. We next get a shot of Disa, who is either screaming or attempting to do her resonating where she sings to the rocks, but this definitely doesn't look like the calm and reverent ceremony that we saw in Season 1. Next we see the falling rock taking out a bridge shot we've seen a couple times before. Then we get some new dialogue from Adar. He says over some images we've seen previously, sooner or later, Sauron's eye bores a hole. The rest of him slithers in. We get some new shots of Celebrimbor walking out to a courtyard. Now, I think the statue in the center is of his own grandfather, Feanor, creator of such marvelous things like the Silmarils and the Palantiri, which we saw one of the latter in the previous shot of Pharazôn's hand. Celebrimbor is looking pretty glum considering how cheerful everyone else here is. There's kids running around playing all happy and he just looks super bummed. Maybe he needs one of these pet dogs. It's good to know that elves are dog people, as all Middle-earth folks should be, right? I mean, how many good cats are there in Middle-earth? My best guess here is that this is early in the season, and Celebrimbor doesn't know if the rings they made succeeded or not. There was a clip going around earlier where Sauron tells him they worked wonders, and this is news to Celebrimbor. So maybe he's looking on all these happy people, not knowing whether he's saved them from their doom of having dead trees and dying thing. We hear Annatar say, "You wanted peace, I gave it to you." Celebrimbor answers, "This is hardly a gift. What have you done to me?" He then screams, "What have you done to me?" We see his reflection changes, and I think it's actually giving us a glimpse of what he looks like in those future scenes where we see soldiers facing Annatar and all heck breaking loose. Celebrimbor then asks, "Who are you truly?" And Annatar answers, "I am the one keeping the storm at bay." And I'm not sure what he's referring to here. Is he referring to the orcs? I'm kind of at a loss for how Sauron keeps any storms at bay, so let me know if you have theories on this in the comments. As I've said, I felt Celebrimbor and Annatar was the biggest casualty of the choices made for Season 1's ending, and I really hope this dynamic will be done well. It's already going to be different because the three are already forged, which I think is a real bummer, but hopefully we can get tastes of the canon story that repair a bit of that first season ending for me. Next we see another fireball landing near some elf soldiers and some civilians, and then Celebrimbor lifting his head up from laying in the rubble. No doubt there's been some battle damage or Sauron damage happening near Brimby, and he got his bell rung here. A quick shot of an orc chopping down, then we see a couple bodies laying on the ground, followed by a pretty weepy Celebrimbor. I kind of wish we had some context for this shot because right now I kind of just want to be like, dude, elf up, grab your grandpa's hammer and smack Sauron in the face with it. Or at least try to. Maybe this is coming after some crazy mind-bending vision Sauron has given him and Celebrimbor's teetering on the edge of sanity or something, but it just kind of feels like an odd shot dropped in this spot of the trailer. I just hope this isn't like his final moments or anything, especially given how he puts up a fight in the books. At last, the attackers broke into Eregion with ruin and devastation, and captured the chief object of Sauron's assault, the House of the Myrdain, where were their smithies and their treasures. Celebrimbor, desperate, himself withstood Sauron on the steps of the great door of the Myrdain, but he was grappled and taken captive, and the house was ransacked. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out in the show. Next, we get a shot of Annatar in his white robes giving that kind of 8-mile stare like my 4-year-old when she's up way too late. A couple more gross orc shots of orcs being all gross, and the next new shot we see is a group of elves marching along a path that appears to be near the sea. So this could be our first look at the Grey Havens in this adaptation. I think these are the masts of a ship, and the architecture and lamp of this building on the side looks kinda elven. Now, another wildcard option, this could be the elves arriving in Numenor, sent by Gil-galad, requesting aid from men. The two plot lines have seemed pretty disconnected in all the previews so far, so maybe this is how they bring them back together. We then see Adar and Galadriel, who are overlooking what is possibly the orc army that he commands. He says, "Sauron is my enemy as much as yours. I can help you destroy him." Now, I can't imagine Galadriel actually allying with the orcs here. That would be pretty out there. And if she did, that would mean she's like helping to attack Eregion later. There's no way that's happening. I'm guessing the upcoming shots we have of Galadriel attacking orcs are her making her escape from captivity by Adar. In between those moments, we do see a couple previously revealed shots of the Balrog. Again, I don't think we'll see Khazad-dûm actually destroyed this season. I honestly hope it doesn't get destroyed during this show. Now, folks can feel free to disagree with me on this, of course, but that's something that's so far into the future, like 2,000 years. I really hope they don't overdo it with these glimpses of the Balrog. Galadriel says, "I will not stop until this is put right." And we see her shooting arrows, and on the second shot, it took me a second to realize she's swiping her arrows through a falling torch, which lights the ends of the arrows on fire, which is pretty cool. I'm guessing it'll be more apparent what she's doing in the episode proper, but it looks like it could be a fun sequence. Next up, we've got an elf blowing a horn, possibly signaling the charge of Elrond's troops, which we've seen previously. We then get a quick shot of Isildur, who we know is facing off against some spiders. The smart money here is him passing through Shelob's lair and having to fight for his life. Then we get our best look yet at Cirion Hinds as another wizard of Middle-earth. Given we know he's searching for the stranger we met last season, and the design of his throne here, I think it's a safe bet he is in Rhûn. I'm still gonna hold firm on my theory that these two guys are blue wizards until I'm definitely proven wrong. I can definitely see how folks think this new wizard is giving off Saruman vibes though. Real quick, when I first paused this image, this staff kind of looked like an upside down broom, and I was gonna make a Quidditch joke, but it does spike out at the top. Fun wizarding connection though, Cirion Hinds played Dumbledore's brother in the last Harry Potter film. All that aside, I think he's a really good actor, and I'm excited to see what he brings to Middle-earth. As for his identity here, I think there's some clues and some ways that we'll be able to tell pretty quickly whether they're gonna be Saruman and Gandalf or the two blue wizards. But maybe I'll do a separate video to collect all those thoughts together. It gets pretty convoluted. Long story short, I'm still going with blue wizards. We then see some of the mystic cult people with moths flapping all over. Maybe they're somehow connected to this other wizard dude. Maybe they're operating against one another. We then get a few shots that we've already seen as Annatar says, "Every soul in the seen or unseen world will know that it was you that was the architect of their demise." He's more than likely talking to Celebrimbor here, taunting him after having been found out as Sauron. It's interesting that he mentions here both seen and unseen worlds. As we know from the books, there are beings who exist in both, Maiar like Gandalf, powerful elves like Glorfindel, and the One Ring would essentially bring its wearer into the unseen world. However, at this point in the story, I'm not sure who he would be referring to that would solely exist in the unseen. All beings of that nature tend to have forms in both. I'm curious to see how the seen and unseen come into play in this show and how they explain it if it does. In between, we do get a brief new shot of fire shooting out of Tom Bombadil's fireplace. I notice he's got his mouth open here, so maybe he's singing a grand old song and it's how he gets the fire going in his house or something. We get a new shot of Adar leading his orc army shouting, "Kill them all" in black speech, followed by some quick shots of an orc jumping from the trees, Elrond fighting, and orcs exploding. Things slow down just a touch as we get medium shots of Annatar with a sword and Adar turning to camera outside his orc camp. We then get Durin the Fourth saying, "At this moment, the great tale of our age is being written." This is probably part of the same speech rousing the dwarves to help the elves under attack. We get another close-up shot of a gnarly orc, then some fighting in Numenor. It looks like Isildur's buddy Valandil is back and he's fighting with Pharazôn's son Kemen. We see Valandil's head going underwater, and I can't for a minute imagine Kemen getting the better of Valandil in a fight. I mean, come on, no way is this a close fight. Maybe Valandil like bonks his head and starts to fall in the water and Kemen decides to save him. That I could see. We get a quick shot of Nori, and it looks like maybe the stranger's cloak, possibly the stranger himself, is lying on the ground next to her. Next, we get kind of a cool angle on a shot riding along with the cavalry charge of the elves. It's a super quick shot, but hopefully this doesn't come across like one of those instances where you've got all this amazing footage and cinematography, then they throw like GoPro footage in the middle of it all. It's way too fast to tell at this point though, obviously, but there you go. Now you know one of my little cinema pet peeves. Next, we get Theo coming to a halt, and while it seems like he comes face to face with an Ent, which he might, it's worth noting that it's not him in this following shot, as this person has long hair. As I said in an earlier breakdown, I think this is the woman seen traveling with Isildur and Arondir. We get 2 more older shots of flying fireballs, then a new shot of Damrod the Troll in all his massiveness. Next is a reaction shot of Arondir, probably thinking, wow, that sure is a big troll. I kinda wanna call him Bob. Then we see Arondir running and jumping off a ledge right toward Bob. And we can see that the troll already has a fair number of arrows sticking out of his back. I don't think Arondir has his bow in his hand in this shot, but it's really hard to tell. Either way, he's definitely looking to add a troll to his list of enemy takedowns. After a moment of black screen, we fade up on Annatar in the scene where he's surrounded by elf soldiers and says, "You think it was only you who put yourself in my power?" While the attention of the trailer will turn to Galadriel, he's definitely talking to Celebrimbor here. And no doubt he's about to make the elves turn on one another and turn the tables on Brimby. Next, we see Sauron grabbing his crown from atop a stone. This looks to be the same crown from the previous trailer that the orcs brought forth and Adar presumably stabbed him with. He then uses the crown as he and Galadriel lock swords. He looks her in the eyes and simply says, "Galadriel." Now where this is or where this takes place, it's hard to say. I think Galadriel is wearing the same costume as in her presumed escape from the orcs. She definitely looks like she's gotten dinged up a bit since then. And the surroundings to me look different than what we've seen so far in the Eregion shots. Sauron definitely has a new chest piece that we've not seen in any promotional material before. It looks like it's got a pair of serpents on the front. Fun fact, in the Beren and Luthien story, a serpent is one of the forms that Sauron takes when attempting to escape Huon. As for what their fight here is going to be, my guess is this might be one of the final scenes of the season. Sauron has caused the fall of Eregion and is possibly taking his place as ruler over the orcs, and Galadriel tries to take him out. Personally, I hope we're getting a Sauron who's done with that whole wooing Galadriel business we saw in Season 1, and is looking to take his place as ruler of Middle-earth and become the big bad that we know. One of the great things that happens time and again in the books is that it's clear no one being can stand up and defeat Sauron alone. Every time that it happens, it takes many people doing what they can both together and apart to bring down the ultimate evil. I think given her arc so far, this could actually strengthen Galadriel's character in the show if she learns this lesson and the rest of the way the elves are united. But surely we've got a ways to go before any fall of the Dark Lord will take place. And we've got an entire Season 2 to play out and see how many of my guesses are correct and how many are way off base. But how are you feeling about Season 2? Do you think it looks like a potential upgrade over Season 1? Are you not feeling it? Let me know in the comments. The show starts on August 29th and we'll have our first Season 2 watch party the moment it drops. So be sure you're subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss those, my episode-by-episode breakdowns, and of course my weekly Tolkien lore here on Nerd of the Rings.